Hey guys, welcome back to Game Galaxy. It's been a minute, but I'm back today to talk about the brand new BitBoy, the 2018 version. There was an older version of the BitBoy, and it was one of those 300 NES games built in, and you couldn't add any more, and it was the usual knockoff ROMs or homebrews mixed in. And I usually am not a fan of supporting those kind of products because I don't like selling these emulation machines with ROMs already loaded on them. That's how we get into legal issues. That's how we get in companies like Nintendo going on crusades against emulation. But around Christmas time, I saw that there was a new version of the BitBoy being sold. I had seen her review, and I saw that they had a sale. So as a Christmas present to myself, I bought it for $40, and this version comes just with the console. No games are on it. You have to provide your own ROMs through a micro SD card, which you load on the top. And I thought, how fantastic, because I've got a GPD XD. This thing is a killer handheld. I did a video a couple of years ago about it. This thing slays PlayStation, Dreamcast, Super Nintendo, Genesis, anything usually I'd want to play in a handheld factor, I can do on this thing. But often I've wanted to play Game Boy or Game Boy Color games in a Game Boy form factor. And I thought, how fun would that be? And thus this came along. And so that's something I want to point out, is that this device only does NES, Game Boy, and Game Boy Color ROMs. That's it. So it's not going to do anything beyond that. It's a very low powered device here. But another thing to mention is, when it comes to your Game Boy games, this device will not do any kind of Super Game Boy or adding of color palettes to the games like a Game Boy Color would. I know I've mentioned this before about how certain Game Boy games, when used in a Game Boy Color or a Game Boy Advance or the Super Game Boy, would have color palettes added in. And Super Mario Land 2 was one that I've shown before here on the show. But that is not going to happen to any of your Game Boy ROMs on this device. They are going to be in black and white only. But one of the things you can do is that if you can find some of the Game Boy ROMs that have color hacks done for them, like this one here for Super Mario 2 that I have, Super Mario Land 2, you can just load it through the Game Boy emulator and it'll be in color. So that's one workaround. Find color hacks for your Game Boy games that you want to play in color. But often some of these games were meant to be played that way, and some of them I prefer to play in black and white. A good example of the color palette gone bad is Gargoyle's Quest. It does not, when the colors get put in there, it doesn't look pleasant. It actually looks much better in black and white. Now, is this the perfect Game Boy handheld solution device? Absolutely not. It has some flaws that I'm going to talk about in a moment, particularly, unfortunately, with the Game Boy and Game Boy Color emulation. Weirdly enough, the NES emulation runs the best on this device. And originally, when I was thinking about what I was going to say for this video when I first got this was, it's cool that it can do NES, but really, this is better for playing Game Boy games. And my reasoning for that was that NES games were made to be played on larger screens than this 2.4-inch screen, right? So I just thought that the NES games were just a little too small on this thing. But before I knew it, I had beaten Mega Man 2. And then I was like, well, there goes that out the window, because I don't know if I got used to it over time or if I just started playing it closer to my face. But I actually now have recanted that statement, and I think it's great. It's a lot of fun playing NES on this device. So as I also said, the way you get your games on here is through a micro SD card up top, and there's no crazy program you have to download or any organization at all. You just literally drop your ROMs in the root of the SD card folder. So you can just throw your NES, GB, and Game Boy Color games all on the root of the folder, and when you load into the system, it'll filter the games. So as I go on here, come with me and let's take a close look at the device itself as I talk about a few more things. So as you can see here, we've got your A and B button, and then these T buttons above here, which is basically Turbo B and Turbo A. Now your start and select are down there, a menu button, and the D-pad. Your SD card's up top, and that's the power. Now you may be asking yourself, where is the volume control or screen brightness control? Those are going to be done through hotkeys, but you can only do them when you're inside of a game. So for example, let me load up a game here. So if I hold select and A, it'll turn the volume down. Select and B will turn the volume up. And this thing can get pretty loud. I'm going to turn that down. If you use the T buttons, it's the brightness. So if we turn this up, it's going to blow the camera out, and it's not going to know what to do with the image here. So I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to try to get us to see this in here. So one thing I want to point out is that Game Boy was not originally in this ratio that you're looking at right now. And normally I am against changing original aspect ratios when it comes to video games. But for whatever reason on this device, I don't mind stretching some of the Game Boy games to be, full screen here. And I don't know if that's because it's just a small screen and I'm noticing the widening less or what. But the good thing is, for anybody who's pure, you can go into the options, and right here you can change it to normal aspect ratio. And there it is. That is the original aspect ratio. Now I'm going to show you the flaw I was talking about with the emulation. So if we jump into my Super Mario Land 2, as I'm scrolling to the right here, you can see there's a little bit of shimmer happening in the trees. I don't know if that's the original aspect ratio being pulled or if it's something in the screen, but it's something that only happens on the Game Boy or Game Boy Color games. On the NES games, it doesn't seem to be apparent, so that's a real shame that there's that kind of shimmering and glitching happening on this device. It's not a deal breaker for me. I can get past it, but it would be nicer if it didn't exist at all or didn't have that issue. Another thing to talk about is how saving works. Now, if the game has a save built into it, like Link's Awakening or Pokemon, this device will not create those save files properly. So saving within the game won't work. You will be forced to use save states. So the way you do that is hit the menu button, go into save, and then you have 3 slots per game. You click once and you can click save, or you can go down and click read. And now that's something that I don't like, because if you're in a rush, you have to click save and either choose save or load from the same menu. I wish there was a save and a load different option there, but if you choose save, then you can choose to load or save. It's kind of an easy way that if you're going way too quick, you could save over your save game. You know what I'm saying? So a way that I combat that personally is I alternate which slot I'm saving in, so I don't ever blow away an hours of gameplay, for example. Another weird thing is that Mega Man 2, if I try to load the ROM and I load my save, I can't move, or it glitches, or things are wrong. What I've had to do, weirdly enough, and only with Mega Man 2 thus far, is I've had to go in, start the game, select my normal difficulty, press start, then load the save state, and then everything's fine and hunky-dory. I can move, there's no graphical glitches. So it's almost like the emulator needed more of the game loaded into it before I could load that save file. So that's something that's a little quirky, but I haven't experienced any issue with it in the other games. So another thing that the device comes with is a little breakout cable that you plug into the headphone jack on the bottom. And it's a little breakout cable with the old RCA connections of the yellow, red, and white connections for you to plug into a TV. Now this I don't recommend plugging in and playing the Game Boy games on, mainly because of that shimmer factor. But it's kind of cool to load up the NES and the fact that you could do that. But I wish they could have done like a micro HDMI out of here, because as we move on to the future, less and less people are going to have these inputs. Plus, these inputs don't look all that great. It's still cool that you can do it. I, for one, am never going to use this feature at all, but perhaps maybe some people might think it's cool and might want to use it. For me, I bought this as a mobile device for myself. And so I wouldn't be plugging it into a screen. But it's cool that the option's there. I just wish there would have been an option for micro HDMI or something like that. Despite the flaws with this device, I do recommend it for those of you out there that want to do Game Boy emulation in a Game Boy form factor. It's been a lot of fun for me. And if any of you know of any devices out there that do this better or are larger, let me know. The only caveat I'm going to say is I don't want any links of things that have preloaded games. I'm not down with that. But I want to thank you so much for watching. Guys, let me know in the comments if you think this BitBoy is cool, if you think it's dumb, or if you're just gonna say, you can just put it on your smartphone. Yeah, you can put it on your smartphone, but it doesn't look like a little Game Boy. So thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you next time.